Hello everyone, welcome to Basically Neda Reads. I'm Neda, and in this video I'm going to review the Crimson Campaign and Arm of the Sphinx. So last week I finished 2 books and they were really fun to read. I had one audiobook and one ebook, and the ebook was the Crimson Campaign, which is the first one that I'm going to talk about, and then the audiobook was Arm of the Sphinx, and that was also fun. So let me get into all of it, and I'm going to try not to spoil anything for anybody, but these books are the second books in each series, so there might be a little bit of things that you might not want to know. Feel free to go watch my first videos of the first books. I will link them down below in the description box, and you can go and watch those if you don't want to see this one. So the Crimson Campaign by Brian McClellan is the second book in the Powder Mage series, and this one picks up where this first one, Promise of Blood, ended. It picks up about a month after where Promise of Blood ended. So to give you a little bit of background, I'm going to explain the little theories and little magic systems and things like that to explain what this book is about. Just because this is the second book and getting into it, it might be a little bit weird because you kind of have to read the first book in order to get to the second book. First book is Promise of Blood, and this is the second book, The Crimson Campaign. In this series, there are 3 different kinds of magic systems. The first one is the privileged. Their magic is by elemental magic. So they can use water, fire, air, earth, that kind of things. And they are usually the elite of this society, hence being privileged. And the second magic system is the Powder Mage. The Powder Mage are the people who are able to use magic by inhaling gunpowder, and what they can do is they can use it towards manipulating bullets and getting them to shoot a different way that it would normally be going. So these people are mostly in the military section of the society, because they can use their magic towards helping out the military. And then there's the third group, which are the knacks. The knacks are the people who have knack are able to remember everything. Everything that they have gone through, everything that they have seen, everything that they have done, they will remember everything. And that is a bit of a help for people to do more political stuff. And in this story case, we have a private detective. So now I'm going to get into the characters. So we have 3 point of views, and the first one that we meet in Promise of Blood is Thomas, is the field marshal who leads the coup in the first book, and he is basically the head of the revolution and starting what will be the next society for this country, basically. And we then meet Adamat, who is the Knack, who is the private detective, gets hired by Thomas to do something for him towards the revolution. And then we also have Thomas's son, Daniel, who is also a powder mage, just like Thomas. And he's a captain of his troops of powder mages. And we follow these three characters throughout how the revolution pans out, the beginning of the revolution pans out in the first book, The Promise of Blood. In the Crimson Campaign, we see these characters move towards their own storyline as well, but it's more chaotic in my point of view. And I would say it just is because of what happened in the first book that the chaos comes back. And it's more military, whereas the first one was political and military. There's more of a balance between them, whereas in this book, The Crimson Campaign, there's a lot more of the military because it's more, they're all in the war. There's a lot of battle scenes and those kind of things happening in this one. With the storylines, I found that some of them lacked what I found very interesting in the first one and just found it not as interesting in this one, because in the first one we were just being introduced to these characters and we were trying to learn who they are and what they do and what will come up for the next one. In the Crimson Campaign, we start seeing Adamat in the same kind of formula. We don't see much of a story growth. In my point of view, we just see the same kind of formula, but different kind of troubles. And it just wasn't as interesting as it was in the first one. I just don't like repetition. And it was just like, okay, I read the same thing in the first book. Why are we reading the same kind of formula in this book? I don't know. And then Thomas's storyline started a little, like, it was really good at the beginning and then it just lagged in the middle, and I was just not interested in that. Like, at the middle of the book, I was just like, okay, I'm only reading these parts of Adamat and Thomas just so I can get to Daniel, because Tanya's storyline was done very well, and it was just like, okay, I think Brian McClellan just doesn't know what we wanted, or what, like, maybe he's trying to make us wait and see what will happen to the other two, or there's something more that's going to come in the third book and we don't know what it is. It is grimdark. It is like military fantasy with a lot of, like, all the action-packed things that comes with it, but I was just not as interested in this one as I was in the first book. And it's just sad because I was just like, I was so excited to pick this one up after so long. Like, I finished the first book, Promise of Blood, I think I finished at the end of January, and then I was like into all these other books and I was like, oh, I need to go back. I need to finish this series. I need to read this. And finally my Libya hold came, because, you know, it takes at least 14 weeks for these kind of books to come. And I was like, okay, now I'm getting to read it. And it's just like, oh no, really? I'm getting this kind of storylines. I mean, Brian McClellan's writing style is very much like Brandon Sanderson. So if you like that, you probably will like it. But know that he has a lot of like grimdark in this story, because it's revolution, there's war, and all that stuff. I tend to describe him as something in between Joe Abercrombie and Brandon Sanderson, which also, I found an interview with him and Brandon Sanderson, and he basically just said, yeah, that was his influence for this story. And I was like, I literally just flowed out. I was like, okay, he actually made what he was supposed to do. And yeah, just because this book, the quality of the storylines went down a little bit, I gave this one a 3.7 star. And it wasn't bad, it was good. I just wasn't wowed like the first book, and I was just like, what is happening? Hopefully the next book will be a lot better. So yeah, if you like the whole grimdark military political, and like it's the coolest kind of fantasy that I've found so far. It's kind of like very action packed with like gunpowder. Come on, it's funny. You would think that something with gunpowder won't be that like interesting, but it's just like, oh, no one has thought about this before, and it's kind of interesting to see what he comes up with. But you know, the storylines went down a little bit. And yeah, so now I'm gonna talk about my second book. The second book that I read with that week, which was the week of June 14th, 2024. I finished reading Arm of the Sphinx by Josiah Bancroft. This is the second book of the Book of Babel series, and this one also wasn't as good as the first one, but it still was fun to read. The first one that the first book in the series is Senlin's Sense, and I also have a video for this one if you want to go see it. I read that one in March, and I was totally blown away by the writing and all the things that came with it. The story is about Senlin and his wife going to the Tower of Babel for their honeymoon, and then they get separated and they lose each other. So Senlin is now trying to find his wife while going through the Tower of Babel, and in this book, he's in Arm of the Sphinx, he's still trying to find his wife, but he now has a group of friends who are on this airship thing that they stole, and they are trying to survive while the ship is falling apart, so they have to go find the Sphinx to help them. And the storylines are very fun to read, yet like there's comical situation in it, yet it's sad at the same time. It's very satire if you think about it, and also it's philosophical, and Senlin is learning a lot about himself. This is a very adventure journey story, and in this book it's more of a found family kind of thing, because he has his friends and he's going through the journey with them, whereas like the first book he was just trying to get to his wife, and like his communication with other people weren't the same. So yeah, this one was interesting. Arm of the Sphinx was interesting. I wasn't as blown away as I was in the first book. I enjoyed it. And yeah, I gave it a 4-star rating. And yeah, it's worth a read. But I would say start with Senlin's Sin because it's a continuation of the series. You can't just not read that one and just get into this one because then you won't know what is going on. So yeah, those were my 2 books for last week. If you have read any of these books and you want to talk about it, let's talk about it in the comments. Let me know what you think about them. Did you like them? Did you not like them? And thank you as always for watching my videos. And if you like it, please give it a like. If you want to see more content, please subscribe. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.